Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everyone. I'm sorry that I can only see you through the lens of the camera, and hopefully you can see me in reverse. Today, of course, as you can see, it's a lovely day right here at our congregation at Agudath Achim, Freehold Jewish Center. We're in the parking lot, out in the sun, enjoying this day during Omer, during the counting of the Omer. We count 50 days from the second Seder night all the way through Shavuos. Well, we all know what happened with Pesach this year. We weren't able to celebrate in families, and many of us had Sedarim or Seder for one, Seder for two. A few, I'm sure, had some family Sedarim of everybody who was living in the home. Now we are 28 days out. It's literally, today is day 28 of the counting of the Omer, 4 weeks. And it's just another 22 days to Shavuot. It doesn't look like we're going to celebrate Shavuot together as a community, I'm sorry to say. That doesn't mean by any chance that we do not, as all Jews in the world, receive the Torah on Shavuot, and we do. So I'd just like to talk a few moments about Shavuot and about the counting of the Omer. We count the Omer, and it's a mourning period. We mourn the death of 12,000 pair of students of Rabbi Akiva, and we learn why they died. There are a number of reasons, but one of the most important reasons is that people weren't kind to one another. They didn't show one another respect. I can honestly say, while we may think there's nothing good coming out of the coronavirus, well, maybe there is. Maybe there is. Our water is cleaner. Our air is more fresh. People are speaking to one another in different ways, finding all kinds of different venues to speak with. YouTube, Zoom, WhatsApp, iPhones, Friend Me, you name it. There's a different version of speaking to one another. We may not be with one another in person, but in fact, we are coming together in different ways. That's one of the positives. You can hear the bells behind me. Now, another positive aspect is the fact that as we count these days and we're home, we can learn about our loved ones even more so and develop a better and more understanding relationship with one another. Ben Adam Lamakom, between God and man, that's taken care of on Yom Kippur. Ben Adam Lachavero, between man and his fellow man, that we have to take care of. And maybe, just maybe, this time of Corona, we're learning how to try to take care of our fellow man a little bit better, and even more so, to have better shalom bayis, to have better peace in our homes. So what I'd like to start off with is just a little bit about the Sfira, and then getting right into Shavuot. In the Torah it says, "You shall count for yourselves from the morrow of the rest day." That's the translation. Now, if we look at the Torah itself, I'm going to wait for the bells for just a moment. We have a little sound play. A little bit of Bob Dylan bells, if you want to know. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. I'm going to try to continue over the bells. So it's to count for yourself from the morrow of the rest day. That means the day after Shabbos. What day is that? And Bob St. Leifer, our Thursday drush this morning, addressed this a bit. The Gemara teaches that during this period between Pesach and Shavuos, as I said, 12,000 pair, 24,000 students, disciples of Rabbi Akiva, perished. So the custom is to observe some aspects of mourning. We don't get haircuts. Well, we can't get a haircut now anyway. All the barbers are closed. No haircuts, we don't get married, we don't have parties, we don't go to live concerts. And the reason, as I said earlier, is Shalom Nahagu Kavod Zelazeh. They didn't give one another respect. There's something very unique about that. Because you see, in order to give another person respect, one has to have self-respect. And in fact, this became a problem then. This was a deficiency, not restricted to the time between Pesach and Shavuos. But why was it necessary for them to be punished during this counting of the Omer, during this specific time frame? So the Torah teaches counting of the Omer begins with Mimacharas HaShabbos, from the day after Shabbos. Well, actually, Shabbos in that case means the day after the holiday being Pesach, the holiday being Passover. And the interpretation between the Perushim, between the people of that time and the Tzaddukim, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, if you wanted to know, it says that the dates are different of when that day is counted, so it changes the day of Shavuot, which is a deep problem, a deep problem. Pardon me. Now, when do we get the Torah? We celebrate the giving of the Torah on Shavuot, which is the 6th and 7th of Sivan. But, in fact, it could have been given on the 6th or the 7th by the counting. So why does the Torah tell us that Pesach is Shabbos? They tell us after Shabbos. I don't think we'll do this outside again, but we're trying. So the time period beginning with Pesach and ending with Shavuos marks the preparation for Kabbalas HaTorah, for receiving of the Torah. What does it take? What does it really take to receive the Torah? You can't just drive up to a shul and receive the Torah. It doesn't work that way. You have to prepare yourself. It teaches us, our sages used to pray before they prayed. They prayed that their prayer could be proper prayer. So in order to receive the Torah, one had to be prepared. And it would take this time frame to be prepared. Now, when we receive the Torah, Bnei Yisrael receive the Torah Shebechtav, the written Torah, and the Torah Shebe'al Peh, the oral Torah. And the tradition is transmitted from generations to generation by the sages of the time. And without it, the written Torah would be rendered incomprehensible. The oral Torah explains the written Torah so well that we are able to understand it and we are able to follow the mitzvahs that God gives us. The Talmud tells us of the foolishness of people who rise when a Torah scroll is being paraded around a shul, that they refuse to rise for a Torah scholar. A Torah scholar is the combination of both the written Torah, the 5 books, or in fact 24 books of Tanakh, and the oral Torah. All of the Talmud, the Mishnah, and the Gemara. The Torah is not transmitted through written text. It's transmitted through Torah study and continuity. This is oral. It's only our sages and scholars that link us to the tradition of past generations, and they can ensure the continuity of Torah, not only to our generation, but to all those generations, God willing, that will come in front of us. So therefore, based on that logic, Torah scholars should be given much, if not more, reverence than a Torah scroll. But in fact, a Torah scholar also must maintain humility. The greatest of Moshe Rabbeinu's attributes was his humility. He was humble, so much so that he would literally back down from leading Bnei Israel, saying to God, "Who am I? I'm a simple person. I'm slow of tongue," as the famous translation goes. But he steps up. For the integrity of the oral Torah to maintain, it is of utmost importance that the sages display appropriate respect toward one another. If the scholars treat each other disparagingly, they undermine the very message which they are supposed to transmit. The students of Rabbi Akiva were the greatest sages of their generation, and their death caused a loss in Torah study for Bnei Israel. Their behavior towards one another undermined the oral Torah, the oral tradition, which it was their responsibility to transmit. With the integrity of this oral tradition undermined, acceptance of the entire Torah was threatened. So we count the Sphira and we mourn. Yes, we are mourning the death of those 12,000 pair of scholars, but what we are really mourning is the loss of the learning of Torah. The student's death occurred during a time period which leads up to the acceptance of Torah. And so we always must serve as an example not only to our fellow Jews, but to our fellow human beings as well. Have a good Shabbos this coming Shabbos, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.